So Tim, let's start off with what Airtasker is and what they do.
Yep, so Airtasker is an online and mobile marketplace, and it connects people and businesses together with members of the local community who can complete tasks like furniture assembly, like office admin, like promotional work, or like house cleaning.
Yep, and now you've been through some great growth in the last 15 months, has it you've been on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's been really great. So since we started, I guess we've seen a lot of shifts in how the business has been growing. So we're an open platform, which means that we're really at the mercy of our users and how they want to use us.
Yeah.
And we just help to create a product that fits around what all those user cases are. And what we've really started seeing the big chunks of growth come were when small businesses and people who are doing little side projects and things started to jump on and use Airtasker to do things like making sure their office worked well, coding up an HTML email, coming into the office to make some outbound calls, all these kinds of business things really stacked on top of the growth that we were getting from the pure consumer market.
Yeah.
So I guess the business has evolved a little bit since we first started. We thought tasks were going to be these little things that people would do, and they'd have to do 100 a day to make any sort of reasonable living, but we actually started seeing that these jobs, they're just a flexible way of engaging someone in employment.
Now you've just gone into a relationship with CareerOne, so that ties into those bigger tasks, does it?
Yeah, so the relationship with CareerOne is really great. It basically means that Airtasker still remains a completely independent startup, and on the Airtasker platform we're free to test, try, break things and be a bunch of startup kids. But on the CareerOne side, we're building into a lot of their product. And that's really where we get to test our services against a huge base of users. So a couple of things we're working on is like mapping task data against job data, so that when you're looking for a certain job, we can say, hey, here's a job. Here are a couple of jobs that you could take, full-time and part-time. But also here are a bunch of tasks that you might want to do in the meantime. And that means that people can start earning right away. So they might apply for a full-time job, that's fine, it's not competing, because today I'm going to go out and help someone do something and earn money for today.
And where does CareerOne, what do they get from this?
So I guess the main thing is that they were really seeing the employment space shift. So there was some APS data that came out last week that said, for example, that the real unemployment in Australia is around 13%, not 5%. So people were looking for more hours of work. But equally, businesses were coming to CareerOne and saying, hey, all you do is full-time work, and that's only one piece of the employment puzzle. Freelancing has been around for years, temporary. But none of these things were being taken into the online environment. So for CareerOne, it really allows them to build up the full spectrum, all the way from task to part-time to full-time, and be one-stop shop for employment.
So that comes together quite well with it. So when you originally set up Airtasker, what sort of tasks did you specifically think there, and how has that pivoted around over time? So
again, I guess it's another little technical thing, but when we started, we built up these 10 categories, and they were things like car washing, dog walking, and all these kinds of things. But we've seen that change a fair bit over time. So it sort of started off very much as small consumer jobs, and it's still tackling that space, but we're also seeing larger consumer jobs and now even larger business projects. So the biggest project I think we've seen is sort of 50 Airtaskers all across Australia doing promotional work for various brands. And that was just kind of never fathomed when we first started the website.
So, and what do you see on overseas expansion there? So that's Australian focused at the moment, I take it?
Completely Australian focused at the moment. We're definitely looking at other markets. There's huge opportunity across the world. No one has really mastered this space yet, but at the same time, it's such an obvious business model. We're really just disrupting what could be described as temporary recruitment or short-term labour hire. So I think there's a huge possibility there, obviously in the business scene, but definitely also in that consumer scene. I think people right now see it as taboo to outsource some of these jobs that they need to do. They're like, I should do that myself. But we kind of think that's counterintuitive, because in a business, if you're the CEO, it just doesn't make sense for you to go and wash your own toilet. You know, you've got other things to do. And that's an extreme example, but in all cases, people are good at doing certain things in life. So we should maximise that to get the most out of people.
So sticking to what you do best and let the bring in that stuff.
For sure, and creating jobs at the same time. You know, like there's again, I guess it's like spending money or anything the same. It's like you should be distributing this and spreading the different labour across different people. So it doesn't make sense as well for you to say, look, I must wash my own toilets, but they're never going to get washed.
Exactly.
But I'm also not willing to give someone $20 to do it who really wants that $20 to wash that toilet. So there's just this kind of missing piece right now, which is I need something done, no one can do it, and I want to do this and earn some money, and all we've got to do is connect those two people together.
Right, so bringing those two groups together. So what's the quirkiest job that you've had today?
Yeah, we've had some really, really good ones. So we had a company pay, it was called finder.com.au, pay someone $1,000 to stand outside the front of the iPhone store, get the first iPhone 5 in the world.
Right.
He ended up waiting for 5 days, which was pretty long.
That's fantastic.
We had a wedding proposal happen through Airtasker. So a guy hired 4 Airtaskers to bump into his girlfriend, each wearing different shirts, saying, "Will you marry and me?" That was a cute one. But some of the cooler ones that we're really excited about, for example, was one down in Melbourne that happened recently, which was someone who was blind, was using Airtasker through a sort of a blind IT facilitator, and was posting up for someone to help him get to the Apple store to go to a Genius appointment. And we're just like,
excellent.
That's really something that wasn't a job before. We've created that job, that once-off carer job, and someone's going to get paid to do that and at the same time help people in the community.
No, that's great stories there. And going back to the location we're in at the moment, so we're at Tankstream Labs and you've gone from the first floor to the 10th floor, so you're now in the executive suite.
I wouldn't go as far as to call it an executive suite. It's probably a slightly nicer environment than the first stages of the office. But Tankstream Labs really just grew out of our own Airtasker office. It was just, we had extra space, we invited people in, seemed to take off really quickly. And we've got a really good group of companies in there. And because we've got these awesome companies in there like GoCatch, Rooms, Helper.com, Practice Ignition, all these companies, other people want to come in and learn from these people and share with them. So it's just taken off, and as you said, we've doubled our space and we've moved up from level 1 to level 10.
So how many businesses are down on level 1 at the moment?
On level 1 we've got about 70 entrepreneurs and 17 companies. And up on level 10 we're looking at a similar number.
So that's a great number, great community.
I think the capacity is about 150 people or so. Be pretty exciting once it gets filled up.
So what are the benefits you've found from being in a co-working space incubator like that?
I mean, the first thing, there's always little things like sharing knowledge with each other about what works and what doesn't work. So, if you've been scammed by someone or something like that, it's like, don't do that. We've done it. We've already tried it. We've made that mistake for you. So there's definitely that. And then more obviously and more immediately, I suppose, there's a lot of great contacts that everyone shares. If you know that someone's interested in investing into a certain space, you can say, hey, I know this guy's interested in transport technology. GoCatch, why don't you go talk to him? He's really cool. And because you've got this variety of companies, it's not like we're competing against each other. Technology is not a vertical anymore. Technology is just it's a horizontal thing that goes across pretty much every vertical. So the guys that are down there, for example, GoCatch, they're more than happy to go and help Airtasker. It doesn't impede them at all. So I think that's been really good too.
So you're getting now. Just going back to your relationship with CareerOne there, that I noticed you've got Rachel Botsman talking as well with the collaborative consumption. So you see that as part of that general trend towards more of the sharing economy, do you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so collaborative consumption is all just about getting a resource which is underutilized and then creating a platform to make it used more efficiently. I think the ones that are really standing out at the moment are really cars, houses and jobs, the 3 biggest things in your life. The only difference about your job is it's slightly less tangible than your car and your house. So when people say, what are you sharing on Airtasker? We're like, well, actually what we're sharing is my free time or my available working time.
Yeah.
And currently we've got this pool of literally thousands or tens of thousands of hours, man hours of people sitting around going, I'd love to have a job.
Yeah.
And that's underutilized resource. So in the same way that we can share this pool of cars, or I can share my house,
Yeah.
I can also share my experience, skills, and available time, and make an efficient environment around that.
Yeah, so you're tackling this whole problem about underemployment and casualisation.
For sure. I think, when we look at unemployment, one thing that people always talk about is, is casualisation a good thing necessarily? And we think definitely when you look at the baseline is a lot of businesses right now, the only option they have is full-time or nothing.
Yeah.
And so businesses are going to go out there and they're going to have to make people redundant, because they're going to say, look, the only option we've got is really I pay person X dollars per year and we hope for the best. But because we don't know what the outcomes of that are going to be, look, we better get rid of those people. And what casualisation of the workforce allows for is for people to say, you know what, we're going to test whether this person is good for this role and whether this role adds a lot of value in our business. So they can test it, and then perhaps that will turn into a full-time job, maybe it'll turn into an ongoing contractor basis or whatever, but it's really creating jobs, I see, as more than anything.
Yeah, no, that's great. So where do you see the next steps for Airtasker?
Prior to world domination, we're definitely just going step by step at the moment, and I think that there's the biggest thing I guess we're working on is building out our micro apps ecosystem. So really coaching people and educating people on how to use different services within the Airtasker ecosystem. That's really important. And then there's obviously a geographic expansion opportunity.
Right. Yeah, so moving it. So next stop, you see geographically United States or Southeast Asia?
There's both of those areas are really great for strategic purposes, depending on what you want to tackle first.
Yeah.
I think in terms of the US, they're probably a little bit more advanced in their collaborative consumption culture, so it's probably a softer landing spot.
Right.
At the same time, Asia's just got this massive population of people who are looking for work.
Right.
So I think that there's opportunities in both places.
Okay, yeah, excellent. Well, thanks very much for your time, Tim.
No worries, thanks Paul.